It is with great delight and a huge sense of accomplishment that I welcome you all today to this long-awaited public release of the result of the rebasing of the Consumer Price Index that we all know as CPI. The event that we are having today is the climax of a comprehensive and rigorous effort by the National Bureau of Statistics to adequately measure the consumption of goods and services within our economy. As the authoritative source of official statistics in Nigeria, a mandate conferred on us at the Bureau by the Statistics Act of 2007. The monthly CPI report is one of the core statistical releases that we produce in MBS. This statistical output is not just a staple product of the Bureau, it is arguably one of the most sought after reports by data users and stakeholders of the Nigerian statistical system. Going by the number of downloads from our website, the CPI report has been downloaded for over 500,000 times by various users in the last 6 years. This alone goes a long way to show the extent to which this data is sought after and used within and outside the country. This level of usage shows the need for this statistical product along with other core outputs that we produce such as GDP to be measured with accurate precision, following set standards, abide by the guidelines, and all procedures are well adapted. This reason, in addition to our role as a responsible official data producer, is what has driven MBS to embark on this critical but something that's supposed to be routine, which is the rebasing exercise for both the CPI and the GDP. Before I move on, let me dwell a little bit about the background of the rebasing of the CPI. As we all know, the economy of any society or country is always dynamic. Over time, with innovation, development, technology, globalization, and changes in the pattern of goods and services consumed within the borders of a nation, the structure and size of the economy begin to change. This change in the consumer pattern equally leads to a change in the general composition of the basket of items which is used to measure the average change in price levels in the economy. Given all these changes, it is necessary to move the base year to a year much closer to the current period. It is this process of moving the base year closer to the current period that is commonly referred to as rebasing. The process also allows statistical office like ours to introduce methodological enhancements to their computation procedures and align with global best practices. Under this process, MBS is not only bringing the base year closer to the current period from 2009 to 2024, but we have also introduced some critical methodology changes to improve the computation processes. Under the CPI, important enhancements have been made to the methodology. Some of the improvements include the transition of the latest version of the classification method that we are using, which is the classification of individual consumption according to purpose, which we usually call QICOM 2018 version. we are transiting from 1999 version of Record to 2018 version. The new expenditure, this new version has 13 divisions. The 1999 version that we were using before has 12 divisions. But the 2018 version that we are using now, with this new methodology, has 13 divisions. If you have been following our releases of CPI in the past. This brings household expenditure on insurance and financial services on board, which now has a weight of 0.5% relative to the total household expenditure. That is one of the new introduction in the rebased CPI. Another important improvement is the exclusion of home production, imputed rents, and gifted items from the aggregate that we use to come up with the weights. In the last rebasing, all these are added to the weights that we are using. But because, as we know now, the objective is to target inflation. And this is because CPI is a monetary phenomenon. Hence, the computation should only include monetary expenditure. So the issue of gift item, home production are excluded from the current CPI computation. Also implemented under this rebasing is the movement of expenditures on meal away from home to the appropriate divisional class that they need to belong to. In the past, meal away from home is added to food expenditure, but the current classification take food away from home to restaurant and accommodation. These changes are quite significant and appropriately align expenditures to their respective classes, which enable us to get price changes that we can measure properly. All these enhancements to the methodology, in addition to the movement of the base year and price reference period closer to the current period, means that going forward, the price estimate from MBS will be much more reflective of the current inflationary pressure experienced within the economy. In the past, we have always been comparing our prices to the prices that we collected as far back as 2009, and that is what we have been seeing over the years. Accumulated inflation are always used in our computation, but now that we are rebasing, we are moving that base year from 2009 to a more current year of 2024. It also means that in terms of the quality of the process and soundness of the estimates, MBS data will be among the top and comparable to any other in Africa and indeed across the globe. The importance of the exercise, the rebasing exercise, and the clarification as well as comprehensiveness. Let's discuss this in a little while. In conducting this important exercise, which should typically be conducted every 5 years, you can see that 2009 is over 10 years, but ideally we should be doing it at least every 5 years. Our mindset at the Bureau was to ensure that the process was rigorous, the process was comprehensive, and very inclusive, with adequate sensitization and engagement of stakeholders at every level possible. Some of us that are here in this room, we agree with us that we have been having different engagement with different stakeholders over the years. That is inclusivity. In all, a minimum of 9 different stakeholders engagements were organized and held at different times, both in Abuja and in Lagos. And this allows us to harvest very useful inputs, contributions, and suggestions from stakeholders. These engagements also provided the opportunity for MBS to inform and make clarification on several gray areas and provide a better understanding of issues of misconceptions in the rebasing process. We have engaged with different stakeholders to make clarification to explain the concept for better understanding. And I hope that when we are reporting today, we have better way and correct way to report everything that we have done about this rebasing. I would also like to talk about some of the collaboration that we have done and appreciate the collaborators. Before I go ahead to announce the highly anticipated results of the rebasing exercise, please permit me at this point to express my sincere gratitude and that of the MBS and the entire Nigerian statistical system to all who have in one way or another supported and collaborated with MBS in the conduct of this exercise. This collaboration and support have not just been in the CPI, which we are launching today, but also in the GDP rebasing exercise that is still pending and will soon come out. The support to this process, both in terms of provision of data, technical inputs, and all other suggestions, has been extremely useful in finalizing this process. We are indeed grateful for all this support. Specifically, I wish to acknowledge institutions such as the Central Bank of Nigeria, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, also budget. Thank you very much for your partnership, and we hope that we will continue to work closely together in the nearest future and produce quality data for good policy making that will drive development in our dear country, Nigeria. Now, highlight of the results. Before I announce the results, let me appeal to all the reporters here, all the analysts that will be discussing thereafter, and users of the data to please report accurately the outcome of the exercise. MBS has taken the pains to adequately sensitize and inform the users of what this exercise is all about and what the data and the figures means. So it is important that you report accurately and within the context so as not to misinform the general public. An abridged report of the exercise will be posted on the MBS website as we speak, as well as frequently asked questions. Check the website, you will also see it, so that some of the questions that you may be asking and those that we may not ask them, you will find them the correct answer in that document on our website. For any questions and issues that you may be unsure of, please contact us and we'll be glad to answer any questions and clear any doubts. Now the results. The all-item index, which is used to measure headline inflation for January 2025, was 110.7. 110.7. That's the index. And this index resulting in a headline inflation of 24.48% on a year-on-year basis. 24.48% on a year-on-year basis for January 2025. This increase was mainly driven by food and non-alcoholic beverages, restaurants and accommodation services, as well as transport. The food index for January 2025 was 110.03. That's the index. And this index resulted in a food inflation rate of 26.08% year on year. Another index of importance that I want to mention is the core index, which is all items, less farm produce, and energy. This index for January 2025 was 110.7, and this index gave rise to a core inflation rate of 22.59% year-on-year. If we disaggregate these results by sector, the urban inflation rate was 26.09%, while the rural inflation rate was 22.15%. In line with improvements made to the reporting of the CPI, going forward from now, MBS will be publishing some new special indices to inform policymakers. This is based on demand and requests from our stakeholders while we are engaging them during the exercise. These special indices include the Farm Produce Index. Never had this before. Farm Produce Index, Energy Index, Services Index. We all know the contribution of services sector to our economy. So we are going to be having inflation rate for that services sector. Goods Index, as well as Imported Food Index. Some of us also are aware of the pass-through effect of exchange rate and the resultant cause to imported food inflation. It's also a major contributor to headline inflation. So we are going to be having specific inflation rate for imported food. For January 2025, these new special indices produce the following inflation rate. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please note that these rates, they are not year on year. It's a new rate that is just coming. We don't have them in the past, so we cannot have year on year. Like the headline that we just mentioned now, or the headline and the urban rural that we have year on year. These new ones, we don't have year on year. Because they are new, the year on year rate for them will commence January 2026. Because we have had for 2025, we will have year on year. While the month on month rate will commence in February 2025, because this is just the first one that we are releasing now. So we won't have year on year and then month on month. The rates being reported here are January compared to the base year, not year on year. So it's just compared to the average price of all the prices from January to December 2024. That is the base year, which is an average of prices in 2024, as I've just mentioned. So for these special indices, when we compare January to base year of 2024, for farm produce, we have the inflation rate of 10.50% farm produce. For energy, we have 8.9% inflation rate for January. And for services index, we have 10.41%. For good index is 10.79%. And for imported food index, it produced inflation rate of 11.47%. As mentioned earlier, a report containing the methodology and the procedure of the rebasing exercise will be on the MBS website shortly after this event. And I can also assure you that if you go there now, you will see it. As well as the document that I mentioned earlier on, the frequently asked questions. You will also find it on our website. I would like to be rounding up. As I conclude this address, Let me reiterate that this exercise is a routine exercise conducted by statistical offices across the world, and Nigeria is no exception to this. So it's not a special event, it's a routine statistical activity. The procedure from start to finish has been very collaborative. We have involved so many experts, both from locally and internationally, to ensure that the right procedure and standard are followed and the best quality possible is achieved. Going forward, with the improvement and quality measures that we have put in place under this exercise, MBS is very confident that these rebased CPI numbers not only reflect the prevailing inflationary pressure in the economy, but will also be reflective of the recent consumption pattern of households and consumers. On a final note, I want to specially appreciate the support of the federal government of Nigeria through our parent ministry, which is ably led by the Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, His Excellency Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, CON. My minister's support and leadership under this process has been extremely critical to the success and completion of this exercise, and we sincerely appreciate that gesture. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I say a big thank you to the minister. On this note, I thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for your attention and look forward to your questions and clarification. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. God bless you. Thank you.